Today, we are going to talk to Zach, who has been a futures trader for a little bit more than a year, right?
Just a little over a year, yeah.
Yeah. So not so long, but he has a great story to share with us today. And he's going to talk about his goals and his challenges and successes throughout his trading journey. Zach, thank you so much for doing this interview with us today and spending your Sunday with us. Would you like to start with maybe giving us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and how your trading journey started?
Yeah. So first off, thank you for having me. It's an honor, not only because we've been working together for some time now, but also because I've always felt that like I'm just one of the many people that are struggling with this. So to be able to represent those people here on this forum is really grand. So I'm literally just like everyone else. I mean, I have had a day job, have a day job. At the time when I started trading, I was furloughed because of COVID. So I'm sure there are people out there who have experienced something like that. And started really racking my brain, like, what am I going to do with my life now, right? What am I going to do to make a living? Because the world was suddenly upheavaled and things were starting to change rapidly and a lot of uncertainty. And I think generally speaking, I'm the kind of person that's always felt like I'm a big do-it-yourselfer, right? Whether it's doing construction projects, which I dabble in, learning photography or learning videography, etc. I'm a collector of skills. And at one point I realized as I was working on my own home renovations that, boy, I spend a lot of money and a lot of effort and time into doing this. And it, of course, makes my house look great. And I'm really proud of that. But maybe I should try picking up a skill set that could actually make me money instead of something that's just costing me a lot of money.
That's smart. That's a smart thinking right there, you see.
Yes, exactly. So so trading kind of got into my view of something I could try. And I'm a pretty technical person. I've got a lot of a technical background from university, and I generally consider myself pretty capable in learning new things and being able to see patterns. So it sort of made sense. It seemed like a good fit. So I started looking into it and getting into trading and started off with stock trading, learned sort of the ins and outs of that. Realized that, sorry, I don't know if that came through, but started noticing that the instrument that I really wanted to focus on was futures. So futures, if you don't know, it's trading futures contracts. I typically like to trade the NASDAQ mainly because the price action is very different between that and the S&P 500. So it just depends on what you kind of like. S&P 500 is a bit slower. NQ, which is a NASDAQ, is a little bit faster. And one of the things I learned was when you find the instrument you like, stick with it. So I stuck with NQ, and I've been trading that now for about a year.
What kind of challenges were you encountering, and how did that evolve throughout the year?
Yeah. So early on, it all seemed easy, right? It's like you watch some YouTube videos, you're like, oh, this will be easy. This guy's doing it. He's making a lot of money. Why can't I? And you kind of get into it, and sometimes you get that beginner's luck, right off the bat. I think I was making some money. And then all of a sudden it starts to crumble. And I like to think that it's the mental part of it starts to catch up with you. You start realizing as you're in it just how hard it actually is. Because on paper, it kind of looks easy, especially when you watch a professional or somebody who's at least been doing it for several years doing it. It looks easy. They make it look easy. What I started to discover was, and this might be a key point here, is it's not just a mental game. It's not just about intelligence or pattern recognition or your ability to read charts and understand the nature of it. It's really about your own emotions. It's about your own personal ability to control your emotions, to control your discipline, to have discipline and control that, and to be able to execute over and over again, regardless of how down you might be in a trade or how up you might be, to be able to execute with consistency. And that's the part that started to wear on me, because I just started, my strategy started to fall apart, and I started to lose money. And when I lose money, I'd get really mad and lose more money. And oftentimes it would result in blowing up, figuratively blowing up my account. One of the things that I'm working on now, and still working on it, is trying to get access to a prop trading firm. So there's like a evaluation period that you go through in order to do that. The benefit of it is that once you pass through, you're not trading with your own money, you're trading with somebody else's money. And that's great. But the hard part is that just passing that, the rules are pretty strict, and having to make it through is pretty difficult. But nonetheless, it still served as something that was sort of a little bit more than, or had more stakes, let's say, than paper trading, because there was something on the line. I really wanted to pass the gauntlet.
I know that.
Yeah.
I remember you were hammering on it really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the most important thing.
Sure. But even there, I started to focus too much on the actual trying to pass something, and was letting go of, or not focusing as much as I should have been on my trading performance. So these were some of the issues I started suffering from. I think I have had and still have a really great strategy that I learned, and the strategy works, but the strategy can only work as much as you are able to stay consistent with the execution of that strategy.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing for a lot of traders to understand, that just having strategy can be great, but if you don't follow it, nothing is going to happen. And it's so interesting, like what you just mentioned about having that test to pass, basically, and how hard it is, even though it's like still paper trading. I remember when we started working together, you actually told me that you wished that you could translate the way you feel when you are paper trading and just plug that right into when you are trading live. How do you feel about it now? Is that how it works? Can you actually do it? Is there a moment where you just can completely take the same way you trade paper, plug it into the live trading?
So
I think more?
Yeah, I think the reason why I even say that or said that was that when I'm paper trading, you're trading a little bit without fear, right? So fear is a big component in trading. It's the fear of losing money, and it's the fear of losing the money you've already earned. And that's a really strong thing that it does two things for me, at least. I'm sure for many others. It causes me to cut my winners short, because I'm like, oh, I've made a couple $100 already. Let me just cut it, because what if it turns back on me? What if that 200 turns into 100 or 80 or 60, or what if it goes negative? I might as well just take it now. So that fear is what is causing you to cut your winners short, but it also causes you to let your losers run, because now you're holding on to hope, and you're like, well, geez, I've already lost 100, now it's 200, but it's going to turn around, right? And so now the fear of how much you're losing comes into play, and fear is everything. Or fear is a large part of it, I should say. And so what I'm saying when I say I would wish I could plug how I trade in paper trading into live trading, it's that I wish I could trade without fear. And I think that is what we've worked on ultimately. It's understanding where that fear comes from, why I have that fear, and how to adjust your mindset in order to overcome that. So yes, to a degree, I think the answer is to be able to plug that in, but it's not so simple as that. It's not something you can just do, like plugging a one wire into another socket. It's really about reprogramming your mindset and your belief system.
Before we met, right? How did you try to solve that problem? How did you do? What kind of things did you do?
Yeah. So, well, the first thing I did, so I started trading about October of 2020. February of 2021, I realized I needed to hire a coach. So I first worked with a gentleman, young gentleman, in fact, who trades futures, and he's phenomenal at trading. It's really remarkable watching him. He live trades every day, does a great job. He taught me strategy, and one of the things that drew me into him was actually that I saw that he was working on mindset. So I went into that hoping that, for the best and whatnot, and worked with him and got a really good strategy. We touched on mindset stuff, but most of it was just read a few of these books, check this stuff out, learn about trading psychology, dig your way out of it kind of thing, right? So it was sort of the here's the manual, you're on your own, which is fine. And I think that it was a good starting place for me, for sure. If it did anything, it actually helped me realize how much of trading is a mental game, and it requires some serious mental reconfiguring to be good at it. Some people may just have it naturally, and I do not. So first working on getting my strategy straight and understanding it, getting a lot of time trading, both paper trading and trading in a more live scenario, trading micros and futures, if you're aware of that, to be able to kind of get, work with a little bit of risk, but be able to experience the actual real effects of losing and gaining. So did that, but it still wasn't working. Months and months later, I was just still banging my head against the wall of not being profitable and not getting not making it through that what do we call it? Trading course, the live trade. So
the test, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I decided one day I was trading, I had basically blown up my account for like the 6th time, and was like, I really need to work on my mindset. This is all mindset. And did a quick Google search and found you. And it was, as they say, the rest is history, but it was a really pivotal moment for me, because I really began to, I decided in that moment that I needed to really work on this from the inside out, that it wasn't just going to come to me through more practice. It wasn't just going to come to me through a different strategy or a new indicator. It was going to have to come from the inside for it to work.
When we started working together, when did you start noticing some changes? And I'm not talking about the major breakthroughs. That will be the next question.
Yeah. Probably immediately, but looking back, definitely by the end of week 3 or so, that kind of near the mid or end of that first module, I noticed some things, and really what I think I noticed was first I came to the realization just how deep the psychology goes in this, and that's what the first 3 weeks with you is like. It's psychology, really. It's therapy. And it helped me to really make connections with things from my past and things from my emotional body, that helped me to realize, wow, this is like, there's no way. I think the thought I kind of had was, there's no way I will be successful unless I deal with this stuff. Like, this stuff is really deep seated, and it goes into my belief system about what it means to be wealthy, what it means to earn money, and what it means for me to be right or wrong or whatever. So there was so many layers to it that I hadn't really perceived before. And that was what I really started noticing after the first 3 weeks or so. In terms of noticing real change in that, it started happening. It's sort of always 2 steps forward, 1 step back is sort of the process. So as you're going through the course, and as you're doing these deep dives, you make a tremendous amount of progress all of a sudden, then you kind of get kicked back a few steps, and it sort of knocks you back and takes the wind out of you, and then you build back up, and but the truth is through the whole consistency, kind of like a market, it doesn't go up in a straight line. It always kind of comes back on you, right? It retraces. So it's sort of the same process. Even now, I think we're near the very, very tail end of our working together, and I've had some really great successes. So I'm now I'm prepared for that. Okay, I'm going to get kicked back a bit here, but it's going to push me forward. So
was there any major breakthrough that you had that you would want to tell people about, or something really that you think, okay, this was the moment that I realized, okay, I am out of the fading cycle? Or was it more like the gradual process?
So I think the first real moment of that was when we concluded, in our work together, that I had been living a life that would I would be punishing myself for my failures, right? And the word we came to was shame. And it was a very emotional thing for me, honestly. It was hard. But and by the way, I think that, as a side note here, when you commit to working in this, and especially with you in this, part of that commitment, at least for me, was I said to myself, I am not leaving anything on the table here. Like, I am going to open up, be vulnerable, let it all out, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be, possibly full of tears and full of anguish, but it's worth it because I really want the outcome. I really want to be good at trading. I really want this for myself and for my family. So one of the breakthroughs was really coming to this place of understanding that one of my areas that I've dealt with my whole life was shame. That I have a tendency to, when I'm failing or not achieving or meeting my expectations, that I start to feel ashamed of that. And I have had a whole series of processes that would come into play where I would start enacting that shame on myself. And this, of course, when you really, even talking about it now, when you think about it, it's like, well, of course you're not going to be able to be a trader if, like, you're at every time you fail at something, you're going to be mad and shaming yourself for it. Like, of course that's not going to work. It makes so much sense now, but when you're in it, you don't see it that way. And I was even in a pattern where I felt like I wouldn't improve unless I was ashamed of myself. And that's even more destructive, right? So you can see how deep these layers go. And that's the key, right? The key isn't a new strategy or just practice more or more hours in the trading simulator. Like, no, it's really about digging internally to understanding what are the things that make you tick or make you, blow up, and addressing that. Because I can trade, like I can go through days and days of trading great in sim trading or even live trading, but I'll have those 1 or 2 days where it all falls apart, and those blowups, can cause you to lose everything. And then you lose faith, and you lose faith in your strategy, you lose faith in yourself. The whole thing comes crumbling down around you. That's it.
Yeah. And that's, the thing with beliefs is that if we believe something, we don't even consider a belief. We just consider it a truth. It's just something that is. And unless you realize and go and do the digging work, you will not know what exactly directs your decisions or the way you think and what actually makes you act certain way. And that is something and that's what I actually wanted to mention, because that commitment and doing the work is really key here. It is, some people, some traders have this hope that when they trade long enough, it will just happen for them automatically. But from what you're saying is you really have to do the work, right? And you get rewarded. That would be crazy if imagine all these people who just came to the market last year or the year before, they all would start making money if it would be that easy, right? Like, why not my mom? Why not your aunts? Why not everyone? Right? Yeah. There must be a difference. And the difference is that, you have to do the work and then you get rewarded. So in a way, trading is very hard work, but it's the work that you do with your mindset, the deep dive, really learning about yourself is one time. And later on, it's just the maintenance. That's the difference. You just have to do it once and then maintain it, because then you will know what's coming, right?
Yeah, well, as using the example here of shame is that once I discovered that and we named it, it's kind of like a scary movie where you have to name the demon, right? And then it loses all power. It's sort of similar to that, in that once we named it, and I was like, like I have a name for it. Like, I've never in my life have I thought that shame was an issue I have, but it clearly was. And to now name it, every time it starts to bubble up and surface, because it will come back up again. It's not something that just clicks and there it is, it's gone forever. Like, no, it will continue to poke its ugly head. But every time it does, I now look at it figuratively and point my finger at it. I'm like, that's shame. Like I'm not playing that game with this anymore. Like it's this other thing. It becomes apart from you. And that's where the value is in that. So, and it becomes empowering, because the next time you see that come up, and shame wasn't the only thing, there was many others too. But when you have a name for something and you can identify easily, it's the same thing as a person who may have a psychological issue or whatever, an emotional issue of some sort. Once you know you have the problem, that's half the battle, is knowing you have the problem. So that's what it was.
It definitely empowers you, because it gives you the sort of oversight, and now you're in charge. Now you can say no to it. Yes. And once you say no once, you know that you can say no, so you can say it again,
right,
and again and again.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for sharing this. And I do realize that this is very personal thing to share. So I really appreciate the openness, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who who don't want to do work like that because they're scared of it, because they don't want to look deeper, they don't want to find out what's there. But it's once you look at that, was it as scary as you thought it would be?
It's funny when I said this to you earlier. I think I said this to you in our very first call before we worked together. And I said, the reason why I'm wanting to work with you is because I'm actually terrified to work with you. Because it's like realizing what we're going to get into, reading the notes of what the program is about. It's like, oh boy, I'm going to have to really open up, and I'm going to have to talk to her about stuff that makes me uncomfortable, that I don't share with other people,
Mm-hmm.
And it's really tough. So was it hard? Yes, it was hard. But was it impossible? No. And it definitely, you kind of get over it, you have your moment, and then you move on from there. And even the fact that I'm able to talk about it now,
I just wanted to say,
is actually a testament to the fact that I've worked on it. And in a way, I'm happy to be able to talk about it because I've worked on it. And it's no longer something that I'm suffering from. It's something that is in my past, right? And I also feel grateful for the opportunity to share it with others, because I think a lot of other people are probably dealing with this or something very similar in their own way, that you may already be thinking about to yourselves, like, oh gosh, that's my thing, or this, it's not that, but it's this other thing. And if you're there, you have to come to the realization that you're the only person that can fix that, and you have to work on it from the inside out, and it's going to be painful. But it's like going to the gym every day and having to do squats or run on the treadmill. It's painful, it hurts, but you do see results, and the results empower you to achieve your goals. You improve anything in your life, there's going to be growing pains, whether it's strengthening your muscle system or working on a relationship with your loved ones. There's going to be growing pains, and it's going to be difficult. But you don't, what's the expression, no pain no gain, right? Like if you're not going to be willing to put that out there, then this is why not everyone does it. Just as you said, like if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But people don't do it because it's hard. And what makes it hard, this was the realization I had before working with you, is that, and I say it to anyone who I'm talking to about trading, I'm like, at first you will think that trading is only a mental exercise, that you can overcome it solely by reading books and watching videos and learning more strategies and learning how indicators work. But it's actually, what makes trading hard is that it is an emotional, psychological experience that you have to gain control over. And most people, even when I tell them that, don't realize how significant that is, but that's what it is. But let me add to this, which is that the best part about it is that when you overcome those things for trading, and I think this is what kind of happened for me, it actually helps you in all other areas of your life. It really does. I mean, there's just the evolution of things that have occurred while we've been working together in my personal life and in my work life is monumental. And I attribute almost all of it to the fact that I've worked on myself in these ways. So even if it doesn't mean that you turn out to be a profitable trader, which I think you will, but even if you don't do that, it's still going to be beneficial for the rest of your life because it empowers you as a human being.
That's awesome. Yeah, and your journey was so interesting also because of all the things that were going on in your life next to trading, because when you work on yourself, it is not just we don't talk only about trading, right? We talk also about the system around you, just to make sure that everything fits in the right place, because trading is quite difficult, as a quite lonesome, I would say. So you also have to have a support system around you and make sure that every piece of your life kind of is nicely pieced together, so you feel supported, and you are not on your own there. We talk a lot about hard work, a lot of some tears and all these things. Were there parts of us working together, and I'm not looking for compliments, I'm talking about the program itself, that you genuinely enjoyed?
Well, of course. I mean, first off, being able to speak with you every week it was enjoyable in its own way.
Anyway, compliment. Thank you.
Yes, but and mainly because well, first, you're such a bright and like uplifting person. So, and I think everyone watching this can see that, right? So, just having that energy with you helps. But I think there's also the element of, they say that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? I'm a strong believer in that. I think that if you don't have the right people in your sphere that you're interacting with on a regular basis, you need to find people that are who you want to be, right? The people you want to be more like, or the people you want to, who are at least achieving whatever maybe they're not traders, but they're achieving in their own way. And you kind of did that for me as well, right? Like, you're an achieved person, you trade, which is also great because, as we all know, like you say, trading is it's a lonely place to some degree, especially, and I'm sure many of you are like this. For me, I talk to my wife about trading, it's going right over her head. Like, if I talk to my dad about trading or something, he's sort of interested in it, but he doesn't understand really what I'm getting at. And so a lot of people probably feel alone in their journey, because anybody you talk to about it, and I'm sure many of you try to talk to a lot of people about it, as I did, they don't know what you're talking about. So there's not a lot of value there. But
especially when you're struggling, right? They usually would say, just stop it, just save
stop,
yourself
money. Most people want to just alleviate your pain. So they're like, well, just why are you doing this to yourself? Just stop it. You're losing money or whatever. But speaking to you, having you there every week to talk to you about it, not only did you understand it, not from the technical perspective, but you understand it from the emotional perspective and the discipline perspective, the psychological. So that also really, really helped. In terms of enjoyable moments, I think some of the exercises that we went through were really fun for me, because it helped me to think about my life in ways that I hadn't maybe thought of before. Kind of trying to dial into the different areas of my life that I might be struggling with, or ones that I'm really doing great in, and then trying to make those connections and understanding, like, well, if you can really perform well at this over here, how is that different than trading over here? And it kind of helps you to both realize that, especially for me with the shame thing, it helped me to realize how much I've already accomplished, and how much empowerment I should have because of that, and be able to take that empowerment and bring it to something like trading. So there were a lot of things like that I think over the weeks were great.
It was really great to see also the transformation in you, from where you were coming, slowly getting to that level of being proud of yourself, what you have already accomplished, and really acknowledging it, and not only letting others acknowledge all the things you have done and achieved, but also started, feel good about it yourself. Because at the end, if we want to achieve something, it is us who has to believe in ourselves. It is us who has to be proud and confident. And because the more of that feeling you have, the easier it is to take the next step, right? Because then you feel sort of invincible, right? As opposed to I don't know, and maybe I'll not succeed. And it's hard to feel that way when you are in that cycle of failing all the time, because every time you bang your head against the wall, it's hard to feel like a winner, right?
Yeah, and the market will do that to you. The market
Oh yeah.
will, is the destroyer of dreams for sure.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's really important that you have an anchor to hold on to through that. You can't let your whole life be about trading. You can't let your whole sense of self and your sense of self-worth especially be about how you perform in trading. And this applies to anything in life as well, maybe your career, maybe a relationship or something. So you have to stand on your own 2 feet of who you are and be confident in who you are, not in the confidence, not in a surface level confidence, but in a real deep sense of confidence of like, yeah, I can do this, I got this, I understand it, I know it. And maybe the best of all, no matter how hard this gets, I'm gonna get through it. I'm gonna go, it's gonna work. That's paramount to doing this.
And is that where you are now?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So many things have occurred, like I said, in my own life and in my career that I think are as a fact of this. And all of those things have now reinforced the confidence. The confidence came first. I think it, helped manifest some of these other things in my life. And then now they have, it's sort of a feedback loop. And all of a sudden, I'm now able to have more confidence because of the things that have occurred. So it's all helped out with my trading as well. My trading now feels more smooth and consistent than ever before. I feel very, when I do have a losing trade, we were just talking about it before the call here, that when I do have a losing trade, I'm firm in my seat. I'm okay with it. One of the last things we talked about in one of the previous weeks was, I think the question was like, what does it mean to lose? And this was a self-created question that I gave to myself. What does it mean to lose? And you kind of asked, well, what does it mean to lose in life? And I was like, well, or not lose, but fail. What does it mean to fail in life? And I said, well, failure in life is to be expected, because that's how else are you going to know where the bounds are of how to do something right. You have to fail before you succeed. So it's sort of obvious. So then the next question was, well, what does failure mean in trading? And the answer that just immediately came to me was, it's just probability. And it really is like failing in trading is just probability. You're going to fail 35-40% of the time, whatever your strategy says, right?
Yeah.
So failure is something not to be ashamed of or to be beaten down by. It's something that is statistically going to happen. So you need to be prepared for it and you need to accept it. And when it occurs, know that as long as I do what I'm supposed to do here, 65% of the time, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna succeed. And at the end of the day, it's an odds game.
It's so interesting because most of the trading books are talking about it, right? But until you actually emotionally experience it and go after it to find out, like, what does this even mean to you?
It's easy to read something. It's easy to hear something, and it might even be easy to understand it, from like a surface level. Mm-hmm. But to make it part of your belief system is what we're talking about here. It's reprogramming your belief system so that, like I said, through that exercise, when that question came to me, it just immediately came out of me. The answer immediately came out of me. Whereas if that question were posited to me early on in the first couple weeks, I probably would have said, well, failure in the trading means I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be a successful trader, or it means that I'm going to lose money and my account's going to have a drawdown and I'm going to get kicked out of the trial, or whatever. So that's the difference, is that you suddenly start to see it for what it is. You program it within yourself so that you, when these things come at you again, because they will consistently come at you, that's sort of the repetition of the market. The same thing is going to play out over and over again. You need to, as you wrote in one of your later weeks here, inoculate yourself from these these emotional moments. So that's what the power is, I think, of working on these things, is to be able to reprogram yourself.
That's awesome. And you definitely did. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And so Zach is almost finishing his program. Actually, we have think one last week together. I couldn't be more happy to see the progress you made and the place where you are now in life. And thank you so much for sharing the story with everyone. I hope that it was inspiring, and I'm sure it was, because even me hearing this again, and we have been talking about things on a regular basis, what they meant for you, but even hearing it like this all together at once is very inspiring and heartwarming. And for me in particular, seeing so many people struggling and trying to realize their dreams, but because they just simply cannot get out of that failing cycle, they're just getting away from the dream. If you have a dream in your life and you don't achieve it, okay, it happens, maybe you will achieve something else. But here in trading, it's not just not achieving a dream. Some people are devastating their lives, their health, their nervous system, because they're getting anxious, so that the whole system gets disturbed. And so it is more than just realizing the dream. It is really about your wellness and doing yourself a favor to stop that. is more than just about making money in the market. So thank you so much again for sharing your story and for joining us. And it has been a real honor and pleasure to join you on the journey for the last almost 90 days. Thank you, Zach, again for your openness, for sharing the story, and for being here with us.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.